Hello there everyone, and today we're going to be taking a look at Okami HD. Yes, Okami on PC. I never thought I'd see the day, but I'm glad that I did, because you want to sleep there? Alright. Okami is actually one of my favorite games, like one of my favoritist of favorite games, along with things like Zone of the Enders 2 and Shadow of the Colossus. And, of course all of those were on PS2, quite a long time ago, generally speaking. And it's nice to see that some of these are actually coming back, either in terms of updates or remakes or sequels and stuff like that. And Okami, I didn't really have much hope for actually seeing again because it was, sort of a cult classic. It was not something that sold very well. And although it did get a couple of remakes, those remakes didn't sell all that well either. And honestly, it's because, like, some of the other versions weren't very good. And luckily enough, they decided to actually sort of HDify it and put it on PC, PS4, and I think Xbox One as well. And my cat's yelling at me in the background. Hello. And, well, here we are. Now, we can actually play it on PC without an emulator. And as you can see, it's actually quite pretty. I'm in the Moon Cave right now, the sort of mid-game point, I guess you could say. And I guess I should probably explain what Okami is. Also, do you like my mask? Isn't it beautiful? Yes. So, Okami, for those who don't know, is basically it's one of the better 3D Zelda games. It's, I guess it's a Zelda-style game. It's very much in the style of Zelda, and to the point where, that was such a good line, to the point where, the creator actually mentions Zelda as a direct reference, a direct sort of, inspiration. And the creator, you may know, because of course this game was made by Clover Studios, a studio that I covered in my 500 subscriber special video, because I love them. And although Clover themselves don't technically exist anymore, they do exist under a different name, and that is Platinum. Platinum Games, the people behind such wonderful games as Metal Gear Rising, and Bayonetta, and the like. You jerk. I was not paying attention at all. It's funny, I think I've been damaged more in this fight than I have the entirety of the game so far. And, it's Platinum. And Nier Automata, of course, as well. With the help of Yoko Taro. And, 3 for that one. Nice. So, this was before all of that, back in the PS2 era. And it is, like I said, Zelda style in the way that it works, because it mostly involves, exploring an overworld and then going into dungeons. And in Zelda, you're known for going into dungeons to get tools that you will then use to progress through the dungeon. And, oh my god, cat. And, in said dungeon, you will have to use the tool to actually get through it, and then often use it to fight the boss. And then, once you get out of the dungeon back into the overworld, you will use the tool to actually, get to the next part of the overworld and often the next dungeon entirely. This works in a very similar way. Nostalgic Clover Studios sound. And instead of tools, however, 30 faith, you'll actually get brush strokes. As you can tell, you actually use a brush. This is the Celestial Brush, and is one of the main kind of components of the game. And instead of gadgets, like, the spinner or bombs or things like that you actually use, you draw them. So if I want a bomb, I just draw a bomb like that. Only not suck at it. I think that was actually worse. And, there's a bomb for you. And these have uses in the overworld and dungeons and boss fights and in general combat for various purposes. And you saw a little bit of combat there that I did really poorly in for some reason, but the combat is fairly simple, but it gets more complex as you go. Where's a source of fire? I need one. And you will then have to sort of go to each of these areas and find your way around in order to actually unlock more abilities to, find your way farther. It's a familiar concept. Can I bloom these? That's a new. Alright, where did that? Over here. So, enemies are often found in the form of these demon scrolls, that will take you into a combat arena like this. And the combat works like this. So you have a primary and secondary slot, and there are 3 weapon types. There are rosaries, which is what I have in my primary slot, acts sort of like a whip. Reflectors, mirrors, basically, which I have in my secondary slot, and when they're in their secondary slot, they act like a shield. And swords, which are my favorite weapon type, but I unfortunately do not have any shields to demonstrate for you right now. No swords. I just haven't unlocked any. But if you block one of these guys just right with the shield, you can suplex them, which is amazing. Wolf suplex is probably the coolest thing, and more games need wolf suplexes. Alright, there we go. So, the game is mostly about nature and sort of restoring it, which is why there's flowers and stuff everywhere, because that's what you are. You are actually Amaterasu, the Japanese sort of sun, nature, and life goddess. And that is represented by the fact that when you run, you actually trail flowers behind you the faster you run, which I always thought was really impressive, and looks even better in the HD version. But, so even though the combat starts out fairly simplistic, it gets more and more complicated as you go because of all the new brush strokes that you will unlock and the new weapon types that you will get. Since each weapon does something different depending on which slot it's in. Thank you. What's in here? I forget. You can actually... screw that up. Nailed it! You can actually find, I suppose, unique uses for some of them, because some of them do special things. You can find a weapon that... oh, that's the exit, you idiot. You can actually find weapons that do things like... do I actually need to be here? Let me check real quick. Things like carrying elements along with them. For instance, you can find a reflector, a mirror, that is on fire at all times, and thus you can draw fire from, because you can, as you saw earlier, use your brush to control fire once you learn the ability to do it, which I just did a couple of minutes ago. And but you have to have a source of fire around you to draw from, and some enemies are weak to it, so it's nice to have that. But there is a reflector that always is on fire, so you can just, you know, like draw it from yourself to an enemy like that, and it will set them on fire, which is cool. And there's actually one for every element. There's a rosary that is, I think, what is it icy? I don't remember. And there's a thunder sword, which is like the coolest thing. Those are very late game items. Back in the PS2 era, I actually like 100%ed this. I found everything there was to find, like all the stray beads and everything. Don't do that. It takes forever. Unless you really, really want to, I don't necessarily recommend doing that, because there are like 108 of them, and some of them are like nefariously hidden. Yeah, I don't need to be here. I actually don't remember exactly what to do. I know I have to find those 4 ingredients for the soup, the delicious stew. I don't remember where they all are. It's been a long time. Press the button really fast. I've only managed to get this one once because the loading times are faster on PC. Yep. There are mini-games while loading. You can turn them off, but I have them on because they were kind of cool on the PS2 version, and very few games anymore have loading screen mini-games. Okay. So... right. What was I doing? One thing to say about the game that a lot of people have been complaining about is the... hey, there's some fire. The general performance of the game is, in my opinion, fantastic, because it stays at a solid frame rate. However, that frame rate is 30 FPS, which is something to talk about. Ah, damn. The game does unfortunately run at 30 because, well, every version of the game ever released has run at 30, because that was an engine limitation at the time. You can't really make it run at 60 without fundamentally breaking the game. It's not quite like, you know, the Dark Souls port or anything like that, where you could fix it with things like delta time, because older engines, like in the PS2 era, did not have features like that so readily usable. There's a chest over there. And one of the issues with this is that if you actually try to make this run faster, it breaks it pretty severely. That was me. You know what? That's rude. If you actually say emulate this game with the PS2 emulator and then get it to run at 60 through that, you will notice that it actually, it will break the game. It will run at like double speed. Oh yeah, you're supposed to like walk across this. Don't do that. Yeah, it'll run at double the speed, and some jumps will become like undoable. Some boss fights will break because the scripting doesn't seem to respect that very well. It's a mess. It basically becomes unplayable at that frame rate because the game physics and general behavior are locked to the frame rate. There we go. Let's do this! And the enemy designs in this game, by the way, are great. I think a lot of people have seen one of those in games. Although that one is particularly, well, it's got eyes on it. So, yeah. The frame rate is an issue, and I understand that people wouldn't necessarily like that. Yeah, oh, you jerk. Will you stop that? However, even though I think this game would be beautiful with 60 FPS or greater, and I would really love to see that, and I'm kind of sad that we can't. That was a greatly timed parry there. I understand why it is at 30. It's not a lazy port, it's because that's just the nature of the old engine. It's not like newer engines that have the ability to fix that. Suplex the wheel! Yeah! And unfortunately there's just not a lot that can be done. I mean, you would need an actual HD remake to fix that, as in you would have to remake the entire game from the ground up on a new engine that did not have that problem. Give me that eyeball. Yeah. Succulent eye. That's something I never thought I'd hear. But yeah, as far as the actual game itself goes, it is as fantastic as it's ever been. It is a wonderful game that I remember very, very fondly, and everything that I remember is still here. And I think that's actually something to consider, because sometimes when remakes, or well, remasters are made, they screw something up. They take something out or remove something that should have been there, or like destroy the feel of something that should have originally been different. In this case, none of that has happened. It's all still here, and it's all still exactly as it should be. All the way down to the mask that you can draw on, the quirks of the rosary hit styles, and the loading screen minigames. It's all still in there. Well, isn't that rude? If I remember correctly, in here you can also get a brush stroke that lets you draw like an infinity symbol. Maybe one that looks a little less lopsided, and create like a firestorm. But I don't have that yet. I think you get it from the cook. It's been a long time since I've actually played through this. But yeah, this game is... Can I just light it from here instead of doing that? Oop. No, it doesn't reach. Well, ain't that a bunch of crap. Or I can just slice it up. Obviously you need something else. Now, the game is as I remember it, I suppose, is the important part, because I think that's what a lot of people would want. Yeah. And if you've never played Okami before, because maybe you've never heard of it, or it passed you by, because it's, you know, not the most, I suppose, popular game out there. It's, you know, it's a game that a lot of people, when they hear about it, they'll tell you that it's amazing and that you need to play it, but that's only if they've actually played it themselves. It was a cult classic, not like a phenomenally huge hit. You definitely should play it. And now is the best chance, because in my opinion, because of the fact that this doesn't really have any issues, it runs like it should, it has everything included, and it looks that little bit better. This is basically the definitive version of this game, and you can play it on so many more systems now without any of the weird issues that like the other versions had, like the PS3 version, I think, ran strangely and stuff like that. It doesn't have those problems anymore. So you don't have to worry about that. Dead fish. Clover! I wanted to. If I remember correctly, doesn't this, Actually, if I remember right, I think I'm gonna get one of those swords fairly soon. But I don't think I'll be able to show you in this video. It's not that soon. I love that little chatter that they do. So yeah, this is probably the... Don't do that. This is probably the best version of Okami that's actually been released. Second to... or, well, just better than the original PS2 version. I heard the Wii version was okay too, but I never actually played it, so I can't comment on that. Although, of course, drawing with a Wiimote does make a certain degree of sense. Had some play hours. What does this say? Skull Dunes. Don't play with the ball. I'll do what I want. So, another thing to say about the game in general, like if you've never played it before, is that it does have a bit of a slow start. Oh, I remember this part. Damn it. Yeah, it does have a bit of a slow start. Again, kind of like a 3D Zelda game, how a lot of those started somewhat slowly. I mean, if you remember, like, Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess, games like that, they didn't necessarily start off, you know, super action-packed or anything. But once it gets going, once you get a lot of your powers, once you get some new weapons, and some... that... I didn't... okay. And some other things to do, with some more places to go, some dungeons to explore, some side quests to do, things like that, it really opens up and becomes pretty fantabulous. That's a word. And it's absolutely worth playing. And honestly, if Capcom does have the like IP to old Clover Studios stuff, give me that bridge, then I want to see them do this same exact thing with God Hand. Like, I want to see them make a God Hand HD out of the other really awesome Clover stop moving property. Nope, you were seeing things. You're going crazy. And I think that would be amazing, because that's another really, really great. You shitter, get back here. No, don't you do it. Nailed it. So yeah, I think that would be a pretty great thing to actually do. I think that they would have some luck with that, because again, that's another game from this same era that didn't sell as well as it deserved to, you know, and that a lot of people from that time don't I'm so good at this, that a lot of people really liked, and that would benefit from being released again in this kind of form. I mean, to be fair, even if you say, you know, go back on a PS2 and actually play Okami or emulate it or something like that, it still looks pretty good, because the game doesn't really rely on like really high texture quality or anything like that to look nice. That was really stunted looking. It's got a very stylized, you know, everything kind of has to do with ink in this game. So the game, of course, has this very nice Japanese sort of woodblock watercolor art. I did not even hit it that way. That is a lie. I saw it with my own eyes. A very nice art style. And the art style does not need high quality textures. The camera is actually making this as difficult and annoying as I remember it being. So, you know, that's not to say that they haven't actually made the game look even better, because it does actually. If you go back and look, it does. The texture quality and stuff has been improved. The effects especially have been improved. to a, there we go, to a degree, but, stop, but, you know, the art style is such that that isn't even all that necessary for it to look, you know, pretty nice. Alright. I'd say the effect improvements are actually more noticeable. Things like the hit sparks from hitting enemies in combat, things like the flames and, you know, all the effects like that, more so than the actual textures. I think those being better looking is more impressive and more conducive to the art style looking nice. Everything glows in a more pleasing way, I guess you could say. Get in the thing. Just get in there. Come on. You know you want to. You know what? That's fine. No one even saw that. There we go. Totally easy. Not a problem. Okay. What's in here? Oh, Mooncave map. Sweet. So yeah, and of course the music is all still here too. The original soundtrack is still in the game, and it is still fantastic. All right. Isn't this where you drop down to get that other chest? I'm not doing that right now because I think that other flower has to sprout first. Hello. Are you a merchant? You are a merchant. Yes. So, it's a game with a lot of personality. It gets really funny at points, some of the things that happen in the actual, in the cutscenes and just some of the dialogue and stuff it's pretty great. And of course all the personality and stuff is timeless, so even though it's an older game, it's all still here and just as wonderful as it's ever been. So yeah, that is Okami HD. I would highly recommend it. And of course, you have to remember that this whole package is only $20. It's not like a full $60 release or something that they're expecting you to pay huge amounts of money for. They understand that this is not a remake, this is a re-release of an older game that is still running with... Damn it, sold that. That is still running with the limitations that it had back in like 2006, I think that's when it was released. Very near the end of the PS2's lifespan. This is a very late PS2 game, which is partially why it looks so good in the first place. But and it, you know, it's not, they're not charging these ridiculous amounts of money for it, which I approve of because I think this game deserves to sell very, very well, and history needs to show that people really, really approve of what this game is. And I think probably the best way to do that is to actually give it a nice sort of package deal now with its improved version and everything. Oh, just about missed that. And actually offer it for a fair price for everyone to try out. So yeah, that's Okami HD, available right now on Steam. I know. Me too, buddy. I will, of course, as always, link you in the description below this video. Let me in the cannon. And I'm going to continue to do stupid things with this cannon. There we go. And eventually I'll be fighting the first boss fight with Orochi fairly soon, which I remember being quite fun because of all of his elemental heads and stuff being pretty cool. So yeah, huge amount of personality, exactly as I remember the game, and everything pretty much preserved. It's not just nostalgia that makes this game fun, it's the fact that it's a genuinely great game still. And I think that kind of stuff is worth rewarding, so please do go and pick it up if you're at all interested in the game, or if you've just ever heard anyone tell you about it. because this company went on to make some even like other incredible stuff under a new name. Come on. Come on. Ew. I want to suplex you. Stop spanking your butt. Ow. He's not gonna let me. No, I can block that, but he's not gonna attack me directly. Well, I hit him again, didn't I? Yeah. Whoops. That's okay. We got him. Yay, 100,000 yen. You can also pee on people. I feel that's an important feature that should be in most games. I think this game and Postal 2 are the only games that have that. So, thank you very much for watching. Please do have a wonderful holiday season. Happy holidays to everyone. And, yeah, hope that everyone, you know, has a good time and gets what they want. And, I'm gonna go play the Monster Hunter World beta now, probably. Because, well, I mean, come on. It's Monster Hunter. Huge fan. Again, since the PS2 days. So, that's probably what I'm gonna go do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.